Well, hello and welcome to the Life Support Podcast with me, Carl Munson, and Dr. John Briffer, talking about 3 top health and well-being ideas. How are you today, John?
I'm very good. And you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. Today we're talking about gratitude, and look at the pair of us on the screen, brimming with health and glad to be alive. That's the sort of thing we're talking about, and something on breathing. Sorry, I've read my whole note out there rather than just saying breathing, and food combining, which is a favorite actually. It came up at the dinner table. Do you know what? This is brilliant. My wife said to my eldest son yesterday, if you have that, you might get what your father calls a food combining nightmare. So very timely, at least in this house, food
Oh, that's
combining.
interesting.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of not food combining. But anyway, we'll come back to that later on. Gratitude,
Okay.
John. We talked about random acts of kindness. This is kind of related to that, isn't it? The power of
I think it
gratitude.
is actually. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I was teaching a workshop this week in London. And I was going through a few things, some psychology, some breathing stuff, some productivity strategies. And I was talking about how lots of people know this. I'm sure you appreciate it. It's not really what happens to us in life that determines whether it's stressful or not. It's our interpretation of it and our beliefs around it,
Absolutely.
And then I was talking about there's certain forms of what I call faulty thinking that I don't mean judgmentally, because I do all of them myself, that cause people problems. And they're things like focusing too much on the future. This idea that you're going to be happy when certain conditions are met in the future, when I get this promotion, when I'm in this perfect relationship, when I move to Portugal, whatever it is, right? Yes. The problem is that, as you and I both know, the only time we have is now. And so if you're not happy now, you can't be happy.
Yeah. Well said.
Do you see? Yeah. So that's one thing. Then there's this idea that I talk about sometimes, that people are a little bit overly concerned with what other people think. So that can be, parental stuff, for example. It can be societal stuff, but a lot of it is actually related to people you don't even know and don't like.
Yes.
It's
something it's something I have to say you've handled admirably, probably from a very early age.
Well, thank you for saying that. Funny, because after the workshop, I had lunch with a friend of mine. I actually met him through work. We've been friends for a very long time. So he's an actuary by training, but he's got actually very good social skills, which is odd for an actuary. But the other thing is they don't normally go together. But one thing about he's all over the well-being piece. Like, he's really, really well informed, and he takes, as you might anticipate from an actuary, a forensic look at it. So, by the way, he throws out all conventional wisdom, and just goes with the data. Does that make sense? He's sort of he's not encumbered by. He's not like most doctors, I think, are unable to get out of the groupthink. But he doesn't come at it from that perspective, because he wasn't in the groupthink to begin with. So he comes at it from a completely blank slate. Okay, what does the data say? And I'll go with that. That's how he is. But he's also very lovely. But we're having lunch, and one thing that occurred to me about him is that is this incredible ability that he has to think for himself in an organization where that isn't really necessarily lauded, to be frank, but also not give a toss about what other people think. And he really is like that. It's not I don't care what people think, but actually he's racked with insecurities. No, I genuinely believe, doesn't care what people think.
And others
he's
know
very
that.
Self-possessed. Funnily enough, we will get onto the main topic, but I was telling him that the people that I've met in life who are least sort of encumbered by baggage from their childhood are people whose parents basically said to them, you do you.
Yeah.
So there's no expectation. So they're not worried about not meeting expectation or effing up a bit. Do you see?
Yeah.
So they're very self-possessed, these people, and they don't have imposter syndrome, because they're they're not insecure about anything,
Mm.
if that makes sense. And
Yeah, yeah,
I've
for
met a
sure.
few of these people in my. He's an example of this. And I
Mm.
mentioned this. I said to him, the people that I've found most unbothered by life and least stressed are for people who have parents like that. And he said that's exactly what happened to me. My mum basically
Okay.
said, "You do you,"
How lovely. Yeah.
And anyway,
I didn't have that, but I think I came to that point of view.
that's
Um,
it. That I think
yeah,
we're the same. I didn't have it either. Lots of
yes.
expectation and
Yeah,
academics.
same here. Although my
Yeah.
father definitely did him, so he was a good role model in quite a bad way. But that was the
I get it.
message.
I get it. I think I know what
Yeah,
you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, that was the clear path. And yeah, it's a freedom, isn't it? It's definitely a freedom.
Yeah, it's a freedom when you sort of go, hang on, all of this stuff. We talked about it last time. You sort
Yeah,
of pick up this sort of baggage at a
yeah,
time when you don't have the intellectual maturity to go,
yeah.
that's not for me. I don't need to do that. This is why sometimes I'm talking to someone, they're telling me about they've got two kids, and usually one's sort of well behaved and the other one's a complete terror. And it's not the terror that I'm worried about, because the terrors are normally I'm not into this, but don't tell me what to do.
Yes,
I don't want to follow your rules. I'm four.
yes.
Whereas the other one has usually completely acquiesced and like,
Yeah, becoming a people
just tell me
pleaser.
what to do, and yeah, become a people pleaser. And
Yeah,
so literally when I'm having these discussions, I feel compelled to say to people, the monster, the terrorist toddler that you have in your home is not the issue, almost
yes.
certainly. It's the
Mhm.
other one you might want to look at and go, hang on a moment. Have I basically molded this child into an image of myself and stripped that child of all independent thought, sort of
Well, I
thing?
never. They're not expecting
Anyway,
that,
what
I
were we
imagine.
actually supposed to be talking about?
Well, we're talking about the unexpected at your workshops, I think. That would be one such nugget. The other would be
Oh no,
you,
so
and I'm
so
very
so, so there was the caring too much about what other people think. Okay,
yes,
and then
yes,
another
yes,
thing is having very high sort of expectations or very exacting expectations, certain
yes.
goals, and if you don't meet them, it feels, well, it's disappointing, but it could feel like failure,
Yeah, yeah,
basically. And
devastating
a
for some.
cure for this, I think, is gratitude, because if you imagine for a moment, if you're grateful for something, you look at your life and you think, right, what do I like about my life? And it doesn't have to be anything particularly significant. It could be, as I say to people, I've got a nice cup of coffee here that I've made in my Nespresso machine, and I've got some time on my own. Or it could
Mm,
be something like this: I'm looking forward to speaking to Carl later, because I enjoy doing. Do you see
yeah.
what more do you want in life than to enjoy what you're doing and to do it in communion with someone you actually like?
Yes,
You know what
yes.
I mean? You have affection for. Do you see? Like
Yeah.
when I had lunch yesterday with my friend, I'm really looking forward to having it. The food was fantastic, by the way. We went to a restaurant called Fallow in Haymarket in London. But that's not why we're there.
Mm,
Of course, the food's fantastic, but we're there because we're friends. And a bit like this, we're talking very openly with each other and not holding anything back, because neither of us have anything to hide. Does that make sense?
now,
We're not
can
playing
I
a
ask you
version of ourselves. But
yeah,
anyway,
on this
yeah, go on,
gratitude
you
thing,
can.
did you cultivate this? Have you always been like this? And how was it to do that process?
Um, I don't think I've always been like it, but I have really cultivated it. So
Mm,
let me tell you, the thing is about gratitude is I think it works against all of these forms of faulty thinking, because it removes the expectation. Because obviously, if you're grateful for something, it is your reality. Do you
yeah.
see? And also, people are usually grateful for things that they're personally grateful for. That it's a personal, individual thing.
Well,
It's not about
intrinsic,
other
yes.
people's expectations.
Yes,
So it
yes.
removes that. It's about you, which is what I encourage people to be focused on. You. What do you want? What are your values? Live in accordance with those. Okay.
Yes.
Stop trying to people please all the time, because it's exhausting. And then the other thing is that it's in the present moment. You could be
Yeah.
having a pretty rubbish day, but your mind goes to something you're appreciative of. I mean, to give you an example, my morning's been perfectly fine. I did the school run. I got home late last night. Everyone's in bed. I get up in the morning. Um, and then Lily gets up to get ready for school. And she said, "Did you see the box?" First of all, she asked me how my week went, which is very sweet. She's very lovely like that. And then she said, "Did you open your box?" I said, "What box?" She said, "The box on the sort of dining room table." And there's a little white box there, and it says, "For Daddy, open." I hadn't seen it anyway, so I open it up, and there's like a giant biscuit in it in the shape of a heart with super pie
Oh,
written
yeah,
on it. And super
yeah.
pie, you'll know what that means. It means super dad. But super pie is what we call Sandra's dad. We've always called him that because he's one of these people. He's an ex-builder, but if something needs doing, there's a chimney that's collapsing or whatever, or some
Super pie
tiling,
to
or
the rescue.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, let's ask super pie, and he'll, you have some vegetables you want growing or whatever. He'll, he's very Portuguese. You'll have met loads of these people.
yeah.
And so anyway, it's a nice nod to that. But the point is that if I'd been having a not so good morning and a couple of emails have come in that have annoyed me or whatever, that moment, if I pay gratitude to it and pay attention to it, is in the moment. In that very moment, my heart is warm. I'm feeling very connected and loved. Do you see?
Mm.
It's a beautiful thing. And here's the other thing about gratitude that I think is important. There's a concept in psychology called the hedonic treadmill. And it's basically this concept that most people are striving for things in their lives, more money, retirement, a certain relationship, kids, whatever it is. Okay. Why are we striving for them? And at the base level, for most people, if they were to think hard enough about it, they'd say, well, because it will make me happy.
Yeah.
And now, if you do achieve this thing, you may not, by the way, which is where the expectation can be a problem. But if you do achieve it, great. And maybe there's a reward to that. Let's say you get this promotion, as an example. How long is the payoff for, Carl?
It can last. It can go within hours. I
Yeah,
understand. Money
that's
money
exactly.
works like that for sure. There is research on that, isn't there, to show that
I
once
don't
the
know if
goal's
there is.
achieved, yeah,
But
once
my
the goal's
research in the
achieved,
field tells me once
yeah,
the goal's achieved, usually you're back to square one quite quickly. Well,
that's
now what?
terrifying. That's terrifying, isn't it? To think that the years of anticipation can be satiated and then gone, and then you're on to the next one because you've habituated yourself to be looking forward to the future, haven't you? To the next one, even though you've just realised it doesn't really work.
So sometimes I ask this question to people, like they'll be quite senior in an organisation, and I'll say, just cast your mind back before you made whatever this grade that they're at, partner or whatever. How long was it before? And literally, you get these, and there's this sort of wry smile that comes across their face because they know what I'm alluding to at this point.
Yes,
And then
yeah.
they'll say things like, um, "The following morning,
Yes,
after I
get
found out,"
him out of
or,
here.
and I've
Get
also
him
had
out of
people
here.
go about 5 minutes, literally saying that, and it
Yes.
might be slightly tongue in cheek, but the point is it's accurate. It's fleeting. Now,
Yeah,
if that happens, what's the next thing you have to do? Well, it's the next goal, isn't it?
it
And this
is.
is stressful, and it's sometimes very expensive, by the way. Um, and if you are grateful for things, in other words, you're basically more inclined to focus on wanting what you have rather than going about having what you want, if that makes sense, then you've slowed up the hedonic treadmill or actually stopped it and got off it.
Yeah.
Do you see?
And it takes us back to Super Pie, I guess, as well.
Mm.
Granddad, who's very happy to be surrounded by his family on a Sunday without some horrible long-term goal that he's busting a gut to meet years in the
Well,
future.
this is very interesting that you say this because you're absolutely right about that. So Sandra's parents are very, very unaspirational, if that makes sense.
Mm,
They're very present focused people. And actually my parents were quite like this, very unaspirational. And which I suppose in the past at some point I probably had a judgment around, and now I see as an enormous gift,
yeah, absolutely.
actually, because
Yeah.
the focus is on things that are much more, I would say, truly valuable to people.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I was talking to my friend yesterday at lunch, as I said, and he was talking about a situation that he has with someone that he knows who's got a daughter, and the mother is, one of these. You're going to do this at school, these exams, you're going to pass these. This is the university. It's going to be in America, Ivy League, blah 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 blah. I actually chipped in and went, well, all those jobs that you go to Ivy League schools for are going to be gone anyway. He goes, exactly.
Yeah.
What's the point? But also, it's the exact opposite of what we're talking about here,
Yeah.
which is essentially you do you, and also you don't need any of these things potentially to live a very fulfilled life.
Yeah, I think what you might be saying is you do you and you do now as well, which is
Yes, and you
important. It's
do
that
now. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's a lovely way of
I
expressing it.
I've been experimenting with an affirmation, which I think is kind of connected
Yeah.
uh, closely to this, and
Is
it's
this a lie that you keep telling yourself until you believe it?
is that your definition of an affirmation?
No, I'm joking.
No, no, I
Yeah.
do remember those days. I do remember those days. Louise Hay, you can heal your life, you can heal your body, tell yourself something,
Yeah,
fake it till you make it. And then,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
worthwhile
No, go on.
conversation.
Tell me the affirmation, please. Sorry,
The
don't
thing
leave
I've been
people
working
hanging.
on this a guy called Dane
Mm,
here, Access
mm,
Consciousness. And
mhm,
there's a little experiment, month-long experiment to say all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And it does sound like
mm,
one of those hideous affirmations that were very popular in the 80s, perhaps.
mm.
And of course, it's it has that sense of gratitude. I'm
Yeah,
even if I'm not, I'm attempting to live with ease and joy and glory. But the breakthrough I've had with it
yeah,
is that the key is in all of life. So it's not just a sugar-coated positive affirmation. None of us escapes all of life. And
right.
so I had a breakthrough about how even the things I don't like are definitely going to happen, but they can happen with ease, joy, and glory. And that has been the
Mm,
most amazing relief for me this week. To give you an example, I run our Portuguese company, and there
mm.
are tasks within it that I dread, and
Yeah,
they are these inevitable. All of life comes to you; they can't be avoided. But
yeah,
having changed my mindset in the way that you're suggesting people might change their mindset about being grateful and not being too future focused and on the hedonic treadmill,
mm.
I am embracing what I would ordinarily put off because I now have told myself that it can happen with ease, joy, and glory, and it
I
is.
I
So it's
like
been
it.
it's most incredible. A
No,
little
I
bit of
like it. I
technology.
really like it. It's
Yeah.
reminding me of a couple of things. One is, you can actually enjoy doing the washing up
Yes.
if you put your focus there, and
Yeah.
it can be, it's like, I was stacking some wood a few months ago. This is
Not a
not the sort of
euphemism.
job.
Not a
No,
euphemism.
no. I was
Sorry, go
stoking the fire.
on.
Um, I I was stacking some wood. It's not the job I would normally do, and then I decided just to go into the mental space that you've gone into, which
Yeah.
is to be very present focused with it,
Yeah.
and to do it in a joyful way, and that you can have an appreciation around it. Where did the wood come from? Actually came from
Mhm.
Superpie, funny enough. Where did the wood come from? I'm stacking it in my garage. Later on, we'll be burning it at some point. Do you see that
Yeah.
you can come at it from it's also reminding me of Stoic philosophy, Marcus
Yes.
Aurelius, Epictetus.
Yes.
There's this amor fati kind of concept, which means love, fate. So whatever comes your way, embrace it
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
make the best of it, and don't resist it. It's really what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
And
all
there's some
very important.
chop wood, carry water, Zen going on in there as well. So wow, what a conversation this morning. We do need to move on from
No, no,
that.
no, we don't, because I
You know,
just want to say, if you're going to do the gratitude piece, what I strongly advise people to do, although I'm not prescriptive, as you know, is to formalize it somehow. So make it
yeah,
like
yes,
a process. So at the
yeah.
beginning of the day, for example, write down what you're grateful for. I use an app because it allows you to upload photos.
Ah, very
Um,
nice, very nice. Do we have a
but
name for the app?
yeah, it's called the 5 minute journal. No affiliation, obviously, but it's called the
Full
5 minute
transparency.
journal. So it's about £22 a year. But
Yeah,
I think, not that it weighs anything, it's worth its weight in gold, because it means, like, I've got like photographs from my few days that I spent in London, and some of it is work. I actually, with the workshop yesterday, I actually took a selfie because I'd mentioned the app, so now it doesn't appear too odd. And I
yeah,
did say this is not for LinkedIn, and I'm not
yes,
completely honoured and what a fantastic day and whatever. It's just for the app. It's just for me. Do you see? Because I'd mentioned the app, it didn't appear too
Yes.
odd. I wouldn't normally do that. But then, of all of these things that I did that were a bit more social, there's photographs there. There's even photographs of the food,
Yeah.
right? So now, for
You're saying
example,
it's
when
not
I
for Instagram. I promise you, it's not for Instagram.
yeah,
It's for
that
my
no, I have
gratitude.
to say that.
Yeah.
I have to say that it's not anyway.
Well,
So
that's
anyway, I
I
recommend that people formalize
yes,
it, make it a process.
formalization. Yeah, and that's why I'm saying this thing 100 times a day, because if I think, "Oh, that's a good idea," and do it once and don't have a formal routine or
Yeah,
timetable for it, it will just slip off and I'll be back
yeah,
to my
that's right.
original state. Yeah,
That's
well
exactly
said.
right. Yeah, yeah. I think
Well
you
said.
can recode your thinking a bit, like as you're doing
Oh, yeah,
with the
no question.
affirmation. I know I made fun of affirmations earlier, but actually they can be very powerful.
Well, and you know, it means we're having a healthy discussion, doesn't it? If there's a little bit of, you know, fun being poked as well, I think that's any decent idea should be able to stand up to a bit of that, right?
Well, I can still remember the first time we actually had any conversation at all, Carl, in a pub somewhere in the West End. And it started like this, and so it has continued.
Yes, quite. Excellent, excellent.
And that's the nature of the relationship. And you know, the other thing is that, you know, in Portugal, we've discussed this before, they don't really have this concept of banter. You don't have people making fun of people in an affectionate way. But we'll know from our experience that if you're at a level of friendship and you have an affection for someone, that you are able to do that, it doesn't detract from the relationship, it deepens it,
Mm,
doesn't it?
absolutely.
It's like you're comfortable enough, and um, the relationship is good enough to absorb that and actually grow. You know, it's not because you don't take offense,
No.
because you know I'm not actually trying to be offensive.
Yes, you're not
I'm
trying to hurt me.
yeah, no, that's it.
Yes.
It's the same in both directions, you know what I mean? So,
Indeed, indeed. So what can we
yeah,
say
not
about breathing then? I mean, all sorts of ideas are coming to mind for breathing.
well,
Um,
I mentioned this again yesterday. I said, I know that you think you've probably been doing this perfectly well for a few decades, but actually, breathing is something that can be a very powerful tool for helping regulate
yeah.
state. Now, there's a few things that we can talk about here. I think what I actually want to talk about is how you can use breathing to improve your overall oxygenation and athletic performance. You can use it to change your state, you know, be more focused, go back to sleep in the middle of the night, that sort of thing. But I actually want to talk about this. I didn't think about this beforehand. I'm just thinking about it now. So let me just explain something, if you don't mind. You'll remember from your biology classes at Emmanuel that when you breathe in, some of the oxygen, what you were probably doing is sitting at the back of the class drawing breasts, weren't you? That's the image that I've got
Yeah,
of you.
or penises to be if for complete transparency, one of the two. One of the two. Yes. Or shouting
Anyway.
out, sir, when are we doing sexual reproduction, sir? It's always and did you have the I think it was McKean's. The book was
I can't
a great
remember.
big red book,
I don't.
A2 side, A3, I don't know. But, it was yeah, we
I
always
don't.
wanted to go to page 43 of the
Okay.
McKean's biology
Okay, all
introduction.
right.
Sorry, go carry on.
As ever, we've got sidetracked.
Yes.
Okay, so you breathe air in, some oxygen goes across the lungs, goes into the bloodstream, attaches to the red blood cells, and then it gets shunted around the system in the circulation. That oxygen is delivered to places like your brain or your muscles. You use some of that oxygen in respiration, and then you make a bit of carbon dioxide, and then the blood goes basically back to the lungs where you blow off a bit of carbon dioxide, take a bit more oxygen on board, and so the cycle repeats. Okay. Now, carbon dioxide obviously has a terrible branding issue at the moment, and it does seem to be like a waste
Brilliant way
gas.
of putting it.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
okay.
it does seem to be a waste gas. It's like you want
Yeah.
oxygen, but you don't want carbon dioxide. Well, it doesn't quite work like that because carbon dioxide is essential in the blood, and it is critically important in the amount of oxygen you can take from your bloodstream to deliver actually into your tissues. And it basically works like this. This is called the Bohr effect, by the way. I'm showing off now, but BOHR effect. And basically, what it means is for a given level of oxygen in your bloodstream, the higher the carbon dioxide level in your bloodstream, the more oxygen you can actually deliver into your tissues.
Yeah.
Okay, so what that means is that if you tend to run relatively low levels of carbon dioxide in your bloodstream, then you are a bit under-oxygenated, and it's going to almost certainly affect your athletic performance as well. Now,
Okay.
why would that be? Well, some people are chronically what you might call over-breathing. You've heard of hyperventilation and panic
Yep.
attacks. That's
Yeah, yeah.
one end of the spectrum, okay? But some people are doing that at a much lower level chronically. They're breathing a bit too quickly, their mouths are often open, you know. And so they run low levels of
Mouth
carbon
breathers.
dioxide, so they're a bit
Yes.
underoxygenated. But the other thing about this is that carbon dioxide basically determines whether you're breathless or not. And what that means is if you're chronically low in carbon dioxide, you're very sensitive to carbon dioxide because you've not got used to higher levels, right? And so that tends to compound the issue because you feel a bit breathless. There's a bit of air hunger, as we call it. You tend to overbreathe a bit.
Air hunger.
Then,
Yes.
yeah. Do you see? And so
Yes.
many people are in this situation. And funnily enough, there are questionnaires that can help pick this up. There's something called the Nijmegen questionnaire. There's something called the self-evaluation of breathing questionnaire. But another test is to get people basically to hold their breath and see how long they can go before their body says, are you mad? You need to start breathing
Yes.
again.
Let's do
This
this.
isn't the
Yeah.
maximum breath hold time. So this was developed by someone called Konstantin Buteyko, a Ukrainian physician who I think he died in the 80s. But basically, you breathe normally, you breathe out, and then you start a timer, and then you stop that timer when your brain or body says to you, breathe. Okay. And according to Buteyko, and I'm not really into cutoffs, but he says basically, if this time is less than 20 seconds, that there's a sense of over breathing going on. Right? I don't know if it's definitive, is it? But it's a good guide. Okay. Now I did this in this room actually with a relatively young audience. Okay. Yesterday, so there's 20 people there, and I think 17 of them were under 20 seconds.
Really?
Yeah. Now, why would that be? Well, a lot of people are quite stressed. They tend to breathe a bit from the chest. They're not breathing very efficiently, and they tend to overbreathe.
Yeah.
It is how it is. It's quite common. I said it before we started. This is surprisingly common. Let's do this exercise. I didn't tell them 20 seconds, obviously, because otherwise in their heads they're going, I need to get to 20. But when we actually did it
Okay. Yeah.
in the wild, if you like, the majority of the people in the room, the vast majority actually, have at least some evidence of overbreathing. Now, you're probably thinking, well, great. Now what are we going to do about it? Well, you can actually build your tolerance of carbon dioxide by doing some sort of breath retention exercise. Breath holding exercises that recalibrate the system so that it's less sensitive to carbon dioxide. It will tolerate higher levels of carbon dioxide, and therefore you're better oxygenated and it improves your athletic performance.
It's
So
so
now
fundamental as well, though, isn't it?
it is. Do you know what? I'm embarrassed to say I only realized this about 20 years ago. And you go, well, that's ages ago. Well, no, because I actually qualified as a doctor in 1990. So for a
Wow.
long time, and remember, I've been very naturally oriented throughout. So for a long time, even though I was very naturally oriented, I never considered breathing. I would just think you've got asthma or emphysema or something, or not. Do you
Yeah.
see? I know it's terribly reductionist and not particularly creative, but what happened is that I was doing a lot of running at one point, and I noticed that my performance would be massively variable. Some days I could run like the wind, and other days I'm like treading through treacle sort of thing. And I realized it's not really the training, and it wasn't really the nutrition, which is pretty constant. There's something wrong with my breathing. I'd like walk up a flight of stairs and be breathless. And, oh, what happened there? So that's why I started to look at breathing, and I realized I was chronically hyperventilating.
Wow.
That's where this all came from. And then
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe it's not just me. And I started to look around and look at Buteyko's work or whatever. And hang on, this is a thing. It's a thing. Quite a lot of people have this. Anyway, breath retention exercises. So there's lots of different ways you can do this. I'll just tell you what I do. Again, no affiliation. I use an app. I think it's £2.99. It's a one-off payment. It's called Apnea Trainer, APNEA Trainer. And basically, it's designed for free divers. I have no ambition of doing any free diving, but basically there are exercises in it that allow you to basically hold your breath, get a bit uncomfortable, and over time you get better and better at doing that. And that's what I've used consistently, and I still use. I actually use it every morning. So I exercise almost every morning. Usually, if I'm in Portugal, in the garage here, and I sit in front of some red lights. I'm one of those terrible people, and I do my apnea
You really
training. Yeah, so I do something in it that they call pranayama. So I breathe in for a length of time, hold for that length of time, breathe out over 2 lengths of that time, and then
Yeah.
hold for 1 length of time. So, when I
Well,
started
that's
this,
yeah,
I probably was doing 5, 5, 10, 5. But my normal cadence now is 10, 10, 20,
yes.
10. I'm taking one
Well,
breath every 50 seconds for a few minutes.
other cultures seem to know so much more about this than the Western industrial mindset, right? And it's there in the mindfulness, isn't it? It's there in conscious breathing. I mean, just the act of observing your breathing is almost an esoteric secret, isn't it, among us Westerners? It's bizarre.
Well, it's a really good point because, first of all, there are physiological effects on adjusting your breathing, and there's a direct relationship with the nervous system. We'll talk another
Yeah,
day about how you can
it's
use it to
everything.
calm your nervous system down. But
Yeah,
also, the point that you're making about putting focus there, if you're doing a breathing exercise, you have to put your focus on the breath.
yeah,
Breathing from the diaphragm, extending the out breath, counting, whatever it is.
yeah.
Well, of course, in a way, that's a form of mindfulness, isn't it? It's a
It
form.
is. It is. I mean,
You could
Susan,
argue you don't need
yeah,
anything else. You don't need to do an 8-week course.
yes, exactly.
Just
If
focus
you
on your breath and slow it
yeah,
down and extend your out breath or whatever it is that or hold your breath or whatever it is. All of it's mindfulness. Okay.
we are in some big impact territory here. Gratitude and breathing are
Yeah.
two massive contributions that you can give to yourself if handled well and appropriately. Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Excellent. So, gratitude and breathing, food combining finally. And I
Yeah.
don't know about you, John, but are there things you do and say in your family where people groan and go, "Oh God, not this again"? This is one of those for me. I have said to my, it was definitely a thing with my ex-wife and now current Mrs. Munson, when she says, "Would you like a glass of water?" and I say, I come out with, "No, I don't like to dilute my digestive juices." It's like, "Oh God, yeah." And then it's like, there's to be an
Okay.
expletive will follow, and I'll sound like a terrible, pompous, and arrogant person, which, of course,
Yeah.
I am on
It's
occasion.
another thing that we have in common, I think.
Yeah, okay, great, excellent. And this is this takes us into the food combining thing, of
Mm.
certain types. So not just water and food together, which I think is a
Yeah.
basic.
Yeah.
But my son came to the table, going back to Dia do Pai, which your daughter was honouring for you yesterday here in Portugal.
Yeah.
Thursday for Father's Day. Weird, but
But was
anyway.
it dear? I didn't even know this.
Yes,
Was it?
that's right. That's
Oh,
that's why
no,
you
I
got
didn't know
your
that.
that's why you got your cookie
Oh,
was
right. Oh, now that's completely diluted the effect. Okay, no, but anyway, that's lovely.
no, you were being
I
honoured. The
didn't know that.
fathers are being honoured, father-in-law and you, the father. So, my son decided to make me a drink, and it's funny. It's wonderful how intuitive you and I are, as well as the banter. There is this wonderful twin flame intuition thing going on between us. I think. I don't know. Really didn't know how you were going to take the idea of
What are you
being
talking about?
a twin flame intuitive with me, John. But anyway, my
Yeah.
eldest son decided to make some orange juice for
Mhm.
me for Father's Day. He made
Right.
himself an orange juice and covered it with squirty cream. Now, at this point, this is where the food combining nightmare. Yes, you're wincing as we did as we saw him approaching the table with a glass of orange juice with squirty cream on. We decided to let the experiment go ahead,
Mm.
and we thought dairy and citrus.
Oh,
This is not going to go very well. A bit of sugar in there as well from the squirty cream. And at his age, he's going to survive that, isn't he? At 14. But I'm thinking, if I do my evenings webinars last night after orange juice and squirty cream, sat down for 3 hours
mm.
back to back, that's not going to go well. This is what we're
Okay.
talking about, right? These basic and lethal combinations.
We are. I'll tell you what the theory behind food combining. It's actually food separation, but the food combining idea is that
Oh,
things like proteins, meat, fish, eggs,
yeah.
um, they're digested in a particular way. First of all, they need a lot of acid. That's why. Remember last week I said steak. It's a great food, but it's actually quite difficult to digest. You need a lot of acid to digest it, basically.
Mm,
So proteins, um, and also starches are better digested in alkali. Um, Also, the enzymes that we use to digest proteins, they're called proteases, not surprisingly, are different from the amylases that I mentioned actually last week in saliva, but elsewhere, that do
mm,
the starch digestion. So the idea is if you're eating protein and starch together, then you're doing two different things at the same time. And that is more taxing on the digestive system than eating one in isolation with something that doesn't count, like basically non-starchy vegetables. So the idea with food combining is you either eat protein with vegetables other than the potato, or you eat, sorry, a vegan meal.
Go on.
Is it? Okay, so I know it's the side I'm leaning on, but and you too probably. Anyway, now some people will counter this and go, yeah, but we're adapted to digest all sorts of different food. Are we? Because I don't see much evidence of that in hunter-gatherers. You know, when they, I don't know, get a kudu or whatever it is, they don't sit there and go, right, so what are we having that with tonight? Yeah, oh, let's do
Yeah,
some roast
absolutely.
potatoes and some, broccoli tossed in soy sauce and pine nuts. They don't do that, do they? They just
No,
eat the
I don't think
meat.
I've ever heard a hunter-gatherer
Right.
say that.
Right. The
Yeah.
thing is that I mentioned last week that some people have very good digestive capacity. I think I'm one of these people. So I feel like I tolerate, if I had to eat steak and I had some potato with it, I'm all right with it. Do you know, I don't get
Yeah.
indigestion, that sort of thing. Some people, their digestion is really not great. Principally, I think with a lot of people, for the reasons that I mentioned last week, they don't have enough stomach acid generally. And those people very often will be better off keeping protein and starch separate at meals. And the time when that becomes most important, I think, for most people actually is the evening, where digestive capacity tends to drop off a bit.
Yeah.
And often people are having their main meal there. So if
Yes.
someone has poor digestive capacity and they're thinking, right, I don't want to eat a vegan meal, which I think is the correct approach, but I don't want to eat a vegan meal. I don't want to eat protein. It's not that easy to digest. What am I going to do? Then if you were to have basically meat or fish or egg with vegetables other than the potato, and particularly if you chew it thoroughly, and particularly also if you don't drink a lot with it, as you were mentioning earlier, then you have a fair chance of being able to digest that relatively quickly, readily, and efficiently in a
Yeah.
way that eating, I don't know, a baked potato with a mound of chili, wolfed down with 3 glasses of wine is not.
And people do that to themselves on a very regular basis, don't they? And it's like it's what we kind of put up with and pay a price for and
Mm.
normalize so often. And I think it gets worse as you get older as well, presumably, because your capacity was also lessened in
Oh, yeah,
terms of
that's exactly right. This is one of the sort of ironies about this whole area for me is that, like, as people age, and I know you and I have a sort of Peter Pan thing going on, but as we age, much that we don't want to admit this, generally things drop off, right?
not
Your
literally.
liver doesn't work quite as well. The
Yeah,
brain won't work quite as well. Do you know what I mean? The
yeah.
spleen maybe it's a bit off the pace. Do you know what I mean? That's just what happens as people age. It happens in
Mm,
animals, it happens in humans. But
mm.
somehow, remember stomach acid being incredibly important, we have adjudged it to be the one thing that's actually getting better. Oh no, you're making more acid. Your
Yeah.
digestive capacity is even better than it was. No, that, as I mentioned last week, that is not how things are at all.
Yes.
Okay, it's usually that stomach acid has declined, the digestive capacity has declined, as you're saying quite correctly. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and you could give
And
yourself some extra years almost by giving up some bad habits that have become normalized to attenuate the natural aging process. There are just some industrialized processes that you might think about giving up in older age that are just working against you, and you've been better at working against it because you were younger, but now your
mm,
body's not so good at working against it, and you could just give yourself a free pass or an enlightenment of some sort by letting go of a habit that you've never questioned before,
yeah,
like that.
like, do you have any examples? You're right, by the way, in principle, but
Like waiting until 9 o'clock at night to have a industrialized plate of food that is a portion of protein, carbohydrate, a salad on the side, 3 glasses of wine, and then a dessert at the end. A fruit salad being the top suspect, I would say. Have
yeah.
all of that, and then in a restaurant, they say, "Well, we've got fruit salad," and people go, "Oh, I love fruit salad." And after all of that, I'm gonna eat melon, citrus,
Yeah.
and cream, and then I'm gonna have a coffee to stir it right
And
up,
then wonder why,
and then go home doubled up in the
Vesuvius
back
is
of
going
the
off
room.
in my upper digestive tract
Exactly,
when I lie down in bed.
yeah, and then your partner might be saying, "You okay?" "Yeah, yeah, it's just a little bit of, I've maybe overindulged myself a little bit." "I'll do it again tomorrow night." It's just can you imagine a sort of Ricky Gervais sketch, can't you, based on that, and him really
Yeah.
driving the point home. about that. So yeah, you could do yourself a massive favor. And
You,
John,
you just
what's really put it
yeah.
into perspective for me is you hear these things, and whether it was like Philip Day or Mike Adams or someone's giving you an example of it years ago, and I don't know if it was Philip Day or somebody like him who said, think about it. When the Chinese eat a 10-course meal, they're not doing what we just said. The rice is separate to the veg course, to the meat course. And I think there's some wisdom
No,
in
there
these
may
old
in fact be, because as you're saying, they may give their body a bit of
ritualized.
time to digest it before
Yes.
they move on to the next thing. Yeah.
A consomme, a palate
Yeah.
cleanser. And it's like, oh my God, I can't, that seems really weird. We're used to eating, meat and 2 veg and a starter and a dessert. But if you look at it in a different timeline of having something to cleanse the palate on arrival, then maybe the vegetables, then some rice, then the meat dish. The French do it as well, I think, in their haute cuisine, but the Chinese definitely do it. And that's why it's, to the Western mindset, it's yay, 10 courses, all you can eat. It's 10 courses because it's respecting the body in the chronology of consumption.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Again, there are some people who have amazing digestive capacity. They can more or less do what they like. They could pile in it.
Chinese people.
Most children are like that, by the way.
Yes, quite.
So you take the average teenager and you open the fridge for them and go for it. They can eat all sorts of foods and huge amounts of it and have no sense.
Last night he did. That's why me and his mum thought, okay, he's got to do this. He's got to have his homemade orange juice with squirty cream on top.
Yeah.
We did check on him in the night.
You did say earlier, you said at his age, that's probably all right.
Yes,
and you're right.
Quite.
At that age, it probably is all right. But again, as you mentioned quite rightly, again, as people get older, digestive capacity generally goes down, and you can't necessarily get away with those things as much.
Yeah,
basically.
I think what I'll try him with next is egg and citrus. See how that goes.
You're going a bit Heston Blumenthal.
Tough love for him.
Heston Blumenthal. That's what I'm getting. Oh yeah, how can we take citrus and an egg?
Oh, I'm totally Blumenthal's. Excellent. Well, have a great weekend. Go enjoy a belated Dia do Pai here in Portugal. You get 2 bites of that cherry, don't you? British and Portuguese Father's Day, which is lovely when you live in across 2 cultures. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you for another one of these. Actually, before we go, I have found McKean's Introduction to Biology. I just want to check with you, John. Sorry, it's a really low res image. Was that your biology book at school?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, maybe it was for some people.
Is that one of those books where you can look inside? In which case, go to page 43. I need to see what you were.
You remember what was page 43?
Inspiring you at 12 years of age.
As you can see, I remembered it well. I could go straight to it on the internet. Isn't that amazing? If you remember that book, let us know in the comments, or any other questions or comments. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you again for the next Life Support podcast. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Carl.